I was standing in front of my house holding the keys in my hand. It was small, nothing fancy, but it was mine. I was 25 years old. 10 years ago, I walked out of my childhood home with nothing but a backpack and $140 to my name. I thought leaving was the hardest part. I was wrong. What came next would test everything I built, everything I believed about family and fairness. Because 3 months after I bought this house, my parents showed up at my door, and they were not there to celebrate. Before we dive into what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Drop your location in the comments, and if you are enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Because what happened in that courtroom when my own family tried to take everything I earned, you will not believe how it ended. Trust me, you will want to stay until the very end. Let me take you back to the night I left. I was 15 years old. It was not some dramatic blowout or huge fight. It was quieter than that, and somehow that made it worse. I'd asked my parents for $20. I needed supplies for a school project, nothing extravagant, just basic materials. My father, Donald, barely looked up from his newspaper. He said no. Just like that. No explanation, no discussion. My mother, Patricia, was in the kitchen. She heard everything but said nothing. She just turned away and kept washing dishes. That same week, my parents bought my younger brother Kyle a brand new gaming setup. The whole thing cost around $800. New console, new television controllers, games, everything. Kyle was 13 at the time. He did not need it. He did not even ask for it. They just wanted to give it to him. I watched them set it up in his room, laughing and excited. I stood in the doorway, invisible. That night, my father found me in my room. I thought maybe he would explain, maybe offer some kind of reason. Instead, he said something I will never forget. He told me I was the oldest, and I needed to figure things out myself. He said Kyle needed their support more because he was still young. I remember nodding, not because I agreed, but because I finally understood. I was not part of their plan. I was just expected to exist on my own while they poured everything into Kyle. I packed a backpack that night. Clothes, some photos, my saved money from odd jobs, $140 total. I left a note on the kitchen table. It said I would be fine and they should not worry about me. I left at dawn. No big goodbye, no slamming doors, just me walking down the street as the sun came up, knowing I was never coming back. My friend Marcus had told me his family might let me stay in their basement temporarily. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, were kind people. They gave me 3 months to get on my feet. 3 months to figure out how a 15-year-old kid survives alone. I did not waste time. I found work immediately. A diner hired me for the morning shift, 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. before school started. The pay was minimum wage, but it was something. After school, I bagged groceries. Weekends, I did landscaping with a crew that paid cash. High school became this strange blur. I was a junior trying to keep my grades up while working 3 jobs. I fell asleep everywhere. In the library, on the bus, once during a chemistry test. My teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, pulled me aside after that. I thought I was in trouble. Instead, she just looked at me with these sad, knowing eyes. She never asked questions, but from that day on, she let me nap in her classroom during lunch. She would lock the door, tell other teachers I was doing makeup work. That kindness kept me going. I saved every dollar I could. After 3 months, I had enough to rent a room. It was a tiny basement space in an old house shared bathroom down the hall, $220 per month. The landlord was an elderly man named Mr. Kowalski. He was Polish, barely spoke English, but when he saw how young I was, he just nodded and handed me the key. No questions, no judgment, just a chance. The first night in that basement room, I sat on the floor and held my first full paycheck. Every dollar on that check was mine. I earned it. Nobody gave it to me. Nobody could take it away. I cried that night, not from sadness, but from this overwhelming feeling that I was going to make it. I was going to survive. My mother called twice during that first year. Both times she asked if I was done with this phase. She wanted to know if I was ready to come home and help out. Help out. Like I had been on vacation. I told her I was home. This was my life now. She hung up. They never called again. For 7 years I heard nothing from them. No birthday calls, no holidays, nothing. And honestly, that silence hurt less than their presence ever had. The next few years were a grind. I graduated high school with a B average. Not top of my class, but I passed while working full-time. That felt like a victory. I enrolled in community college, immediately business administration. Financial aid covered tuition, and I kept working. At 18, I got a job with a construction company called Bridgestone Builders. I started as a laborer, hauling materials, cleaning sites, doing whatever needed doing. My boss, Frank Garrison, was this gruff older man with permanent sunburn and hands like leather. He noticed I showed up early, stayed late, never complained. After 6 months, he pulled me aside and taught me how to read blueprints, then project scheduling, then cost estimation. Frank did not have sons of his own. I think maybe he saw something in me. By 19, I was an assistant foreman. By 22, I was making $18 an hour and managing small crews. I finished my associate degree at 21, immediately enrolled in an online bachelor's program. I would work all day on construction sites, come home covered in dust, shower, eat something quick, then study until midnight. Every single night. My social life was non-existent. I watched friends from high school go to parties, travel, date, do all the normal young adult things. I missed all of it. But I had a plan, and nothing was going to stop me. I moved to a one-bedroom apartment when I was 22. It was not much, but it was mine. I furnished it slowly, piece by piece from thrift stores. A couch here, a table there. Marcus still checked in every week. He was the only person from my old life who stayed. He became more than a friend. He became the brother Kyle never was. During all this time, I never saw my parents. Once, when I was 20, I ran into my mother at a grocery store. We made eye contact across the produce section. She looked at me for maybe 3 seconds, then turned and walked away. That told me everything. Through mutual acquaintances, I heard about Kyle. He was still living at home. Parents paid for his college, bought him a car, gave him everything. I was not jealous, honestly. It just confirmed what I already knew, but it still hurt in this dull, persistent way. At 24, I completed my bachelor's degree. Bridgestone Builders promoted me to project manager. My salary jumped to $58,000 a year. I had been saving aggressively for 3 years. I had $32,000 for a down payment. I started looking at houses. Over 2 months, I toured 15 properties. Some were too expensive. Some were falling apart. Then I found it. It was a small 2-bedroom ranch house built in 1978. The roof was solid. Foundation was good, but it needed cosmetic work. Paint floors, kitchen updates. The kind of work I could do myself. It sat on a 1/4-acre lot in a working-class neighborhood. Tree-lined street. Quiet. Safe. The asking price was $160,000. My realtor, Laura Bennett, was this energetic woman in her 50s. When I told her my age and showed her my finances, her eyes went wide. She said she had never worked with someone so young who was so prepared. The mortgage approval came through. My credit score, which I built from absolutely nothing, qualified me. My income, which I earned entirely myself, was verified. At 24 years and 11 months old, I signed the closing papers. Alone. No family there. But Marcus came. Frank came. That was enough. The first night in my house, I slept on an air mattress in the empty living room. I laid there in the dark, listening to the house settle, and I cried. Not sad tears. Relieved tears. Grateful tears. I did it. Against everything, I actually did it. I spent the next 6 months renovating. I refinished the hardwood floors myself, updated the kitchen cabinets, painted every single room. I used every skill I learned on construction sites. The house transformed. It became beautiful. It became home. 3 months after moving in on a normal Saturday morning, I was painting the back bedroom. The doorbell rang. I was not expecting anyone. I opened the door and froze. My father stood there, my mother beside him, and Kyle, now 23 years old, behind them both. I had not seen them in almost 10 years. My father looked older, grayer. My mother looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with her purse. Kyle stood with his arms crossed, staring at my house like he was appraising it. My father spoke first. "So, this is what you have been up to. Nice place." I did not know what to say. I stepped aside and let them in. The whole thing felt surreal. They walked through my living room looking at everything. My mother touched the walls, I painted the floors, I refinished. She said with this fake sweetness that they had been meaning to reach out. She said they were so proud of me. Proud. The word felt like a slap. I stayed quiet, guarded, but some small part of me hoped maybe they genuinely wanted to reconnect. Maybe 10 years changed them. My father admired the house, asked questions about the price, the down payment, the mortgage. I answered honestly. $160,000, $32,000 down. The rest was financed. I thought we were just making conversation. Then Kyle spoke, his first words to me in a decade. "Must be nice. Some of us do not have it so easy." The air in the room changed. I looked at him confused. Easy? I explained that it was not easy. It was 10 years of grinding, of working multiple jobs, of sacrificing everything. Kyle rolled his eyes. My father jumped in. He said that family should help family. He said Kyle was struggling, still trying to find his path. My mother added that I had always been so independent. She said Kyle needed more support. Then came the ask. My father suggested I could help out my brother. Maybe let him live in my house rent-free. Maybe support him while he figured things out. I felt my chest tighten. I declined as politely as I could. I explained that I worked alone for this. I could not afford to support someone else right now. I barely finished the sentence before Kyle exploded. He called me selfish. He said I always had been selfish. He said I left them. Left them, I left because I had to. I left because staying meant being invisible. I tried to explain this to stay calm, but the conversation spiraled. My parents denied everything. They said they gave me a roof and food for 15 years. They said I chose to leave. My father's voice got louder. He said I owed them. He said family means something. The visit ended with them storming out. My father's last words were a threat. "You will regret this. Family means something." The door slammed. I stood in my empty house, shaking with anger and hurt. All those old wounds ripped open. 3 weeks later, I came home from work to find an envelope taped to my front door. It was thick, official-looking. I opened it, standing on my porch. Inside was a legal summons. My parents had filed a lawsuit against me. I read the document 3 times, sure I was misunderstanding. But no, it was clear. They were suing me for 50% equity in my house. Their legal claim stated that they raised me, provided for me until I chose to leave, and I owed support to my younger brother as partial repayment for family investment in my upbringing. They demanded I transfer half the ownership to Kyle to give him a fresh start he deserves. I called Marcus immediately. He was furious. He said it was insane that they could not possibly win. But I needed to know for sure. I scheduled a free consultation with an attorney named David Park. He reviewed the documents and told me the case was weak, almost frivolous, but I would still have to defend myself. He quoted me $3,000 minimum for representation. I had maybe $4,000 in savings after buying the house and doing renovations. I could afford a lawyer barely, but it would wipe me out. I made a decision. I would represent myself. I spent the next 2 months researching law every night after work. Property rights, family law, contract law. I prepared my case meticulously. The discovery process began. My parents had hired a lawyer, somehow funded this legal attack. Their attorney demanded all my financial records. I complied. I provided every pay stub from every job I ever worked, every bank statement, every receipt I kept, every transaction from age 15 to 25. The paper trail was complete and undeniable. I earned every single dollar myself. Their lawyer kept pushing the moral obligation angle family duty, the idea that I owed them something beyond the law. Meanwhile, Kyle signed on to the lawsuit as a co-plaintiff. He actually put his name on legal documents demanding half my house. The stress was crushing. I barely slept. My work suffered. Frank noticed and pulled me aside, asked if everything was okay. I told him the basics. He was appalled. The court date was set. 4 weeks away. I prepared everything I could. Documents organized in binders. Timeline printed out. Witness statements collected. I was going to fight this with every ounce of strength I had. They wanted to take what I built. I would not let them. The courthouse was small county-level family court division. I arrived early wearing my only suit. I carried a folder containing 10 years of my life in documents. I walked in alone. Marcus was the only person in my corner sitting in the back row for moral support. My parents arrived with Kyle and their attorney. The lawyer, Roger Hartley, wore an expensive suit and carried a leather briefcase. He looked polished and confident. They looked vindicated, like they had already won. The judge entered. Her name was Sandra Morrison. Middle-aged, stern expression, but her eyes looked fair. The bailiff called the case. Donald and Patricia versus Saul regarding property equity claim. My heart pounded. Roger Hartley stood and gave his opening statement. He talked about family bonds and parental sacrifice. He used words like moral duty and obligation. He painted a picture of parents who invested 18 years into raising a child only to be cast aside when that child became successful. He claimed I benefited from their investment and now refused to honor family obligations. Then he talked about Kyle. He called him a young man trying to start his life deserving of the same opportunities his older brother had. He made it sound like I was hoarding resources. He said they were not asking for money, just fair distribution of family resources. It was a compelling speech if you did not know the truth. Judge Morrison listened, her expression skeptical but neutral. Then it was my turn. I stood up. No lawyer beside me. Just me and the truth. I spoke simply. Your Honor, I left home at 15 because I had to. Everything I have I earned alone. I saw the judge lean forward, slightly interested. I presented my timeline. I explained that at 15 my parents refused me $20 for school supplies but spent $800 on my brother's gaming system that same week. I showed my work history. Every job starting at 15. Tax returns filed independently since 16. I was never claimed as a dependent after I left. I showed financial aid applications for college with zero parental contribution. Student loans in my name only. Rental agreements and utility bills in my name from age 16 onward. I presented bank statements showing steady savings growth from multiple jobs. Every deposit came from work. Every withdrawal was for rent, food, tuition, survival. Then the mortgage documents. The down payment came entirely from my account. My income was verified by my employer. Frank Garrison took the stand as a character witness. He testified that I started working at 18 and worked harder than anyone he had ever seen. Ms. Rodriguez submitted a written statement describing how she found me, a 15-year-old kid, sleeping in her classroom because I was working before school started. She wrote that I never asked for help, but was clearly struggling alone. I provided phone records showing 0 calls from my parents for 7 years. No contact, no support, nothing. Roger Hartley cross-examined me. He tried to argue that I could have sought child support or legal emancipation. I responded plainly. I did not want anything from them then. I definitely do not owe them anything now. Then my parents took the stand. My father claimed they gave me life skills and taught me independence. My mother cried, said they always loved me, said this was about fairness for both sons. Kyle testified too. Under questioning, he admitted he still lived at home. He admitted my parents paid all his expenses. He worked part-time, but most of his money went to what he called personal use. The contrast was stark. 10 years of my receipts and discipline versus Kyle's zero financial responsibility. The truth was cutting through their story like light through fog. Facts over feelings. Evidence over emotion. Judge Morrison asked if I had any final statement before she made her ruling. I stood. I took a deep breath. This was it. I looked at the judge and spoke from my heart. Your Honor, I am not here because I hate my family. I am here because 10 years ago I learned that love is not supposed to hurt. When I was 15, I did not leave because I wanted to. I left because staying meant becoming invisible. My parents made a choice about which son mattered. I accepted that and built my own life. I continued. For 10 years, they never called, never visited, never asked if I was okay. But 3 months after I bought my house, they showed up. Not to celebrate, not to apologize, to take. I paused, then delivered the line I had been holding. They do not want me. They want what I built. And teaching my brother that he deserves what someone else earned, that is not helping him. That is destroying whatever chance he has to become someone who can stand on his own. I looked directly at my parents for the first time. I do not owe them 50% of my house, but I do owe them this truth. The best thing they ever taught me was that I could not count on them, because that lesson made me someone who can count on myself. Silence filled the courtroom. Judge Morrison leaned back in her chair. My father's face had gone pale. My mother's tears stopped. Kyle stared at the floor, unable to meet my eyes. The energy in the room shifted. The pretense evaporated. The truth stood alone. Judge Morrison took only a moment. She looked at both sides and spoke clearly. I have reviewed the evidence and heard the testimony. This case is dismissed with prejudice. Relief flooded through me. She continued. There is no legal basis for this claim. Mr. Saul has demonstrated beyond any doubt that every dollar invested in this property came from his own labor. Parenting a minor child creates no legal claim to that child's future assets earned as an adult. Then she looked directly at my parents. What I see here is an attempt to exploit success you played no part in building. This lawsuit borders on frivolous, and I am troubled by the motivation behind it. She turned to Kyle. Young man, you are 23 years old. Your brother's example should inspire you not to become something you feel entitled to take. She ordered my parents to pay the court filing fees. The gavel came down. Case dismissed. Mr. Saul, you are free to go. I walked out of that courtroom alone. My parents and Kyle left through a different exit, avoiding eye contact. Marcus was waiting outside. He hugged me hard. You did it. You actually did it. I nodded, but the victory felt hollow. I did not feel triumphant. I felt tired. I won, but what did I really win? The confirmation that my family valued my assets more than they ever valued me. That was not a prize. That was just sad. Weeks after the trial, my parents sent a single text message. It said, "We are sorry you feel this way." Not an apology for what they did, just sorry for how I felt about it. I did not respond. I blocked their numbers. Kyle left a voicemail once. He said he did not think it would go this far. I never called back. Some bridges are not meant to be rebuilt. Some relationships are not worth salvaging. I made peace with that. Life continued. I threw myself into work, into finishing projects on my house. I started attending community events in my neighborhood, met my neighbors properly. I made friends with people who had no agenda, no history, just genuine kindness. I started dating someone, a teacher named Jordan. We took it slow. Trust does not come easy after betrayal, but I was learning to open up again, to believe that not everyone would hurt me. The house became more than property. It became a sanctuary. Every room held a memory of survival, of persistence, of choosing myself when nobody else would. I started therapy, worked through the complicated feelings about family and abandonment. I journaled. I processed. Time helped. Slowly, I realized I had been grieving the family I wished I had, not the one I actually had. Once, I accepted that the pain lessened. Present day, I am 26 years old. Sometimes I sit on my back porch looking at the yard I maintain, the house I built, the life I created. I think about the lesson in all of this. Family is not just blood. It is Marcus who checked on me every single week for 10 years. It is Frank who taught me a trade and treated me like a son. It is Ms. Rodriguez who gave me a safe place to rest. It is Mr. Kowalski who took a chance on a 16-year-old kid when nobody else would. Those people are my family. They chose me. I chose them. I do not hate my parents. Hate takes energy I would rather spend elsewhere. I just do not need them. And that freedom, that peace is worth more than any house, any lawsuit, any amount of money. Sometimes the family you build is stronger than the one you are born into. That is my truth. And maybe that is the fresh start we all deserve. Not one handed to us. One we give ourselves. So let me ask you something. Have you ever had to stand up for what you earned even when the people who should support you tried to tear you down? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read every single one. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Someone who is fighting their own battle and needs to know they are not alone. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that your worth is not determined by who stays or leaves. It is determined by what you do when you are left standing alone. Take care of yourselves out there. You are stronger than you know.